Hi, enjoy listening. The city lights shimmered over the skyline, reflecting off the glass and steel of high-rise buildings. But one corner of downtown seemed oddly calm. Unlike the flashing signs and booming music of the nearby nightclubs, Whitford's bistro had a quiet, understated elegance. To outsiders, it seemed almost monastic, an island of tranquility in a city that never slept. Henry Whitford, the owner, surveyed the dining room from behind the bar. He was tall, lean, with sharp features and restless energy. For years, he had imagined transforming the bistro into something more exciting, more glamorous, perhaps with live bands or themed nights. But his wife Claire had always laughed. "We're not a circus, Henry," she said over dinner one night, slicing her steak with calm precision. "Your father and I built something enduring. Don't ruin it chasing trends." Henry grumbled, though he knew she was right. Claire came from a wealthy family that had invested in construction and hospitality for decades. Her father had taught her the business early, and by the time she handed the bistro to Henry, she expected him to manage it conservatively. And he did, mostly. But Henry had a secret. He had charm, ambition, and admittedly, an eye for opportunity. Despite being married, he had convinced himself that his loyalty was reserved for the bistro and the wealth it brought, not Claire herself. Over 10 years, he had cultivated a small fortune quietly, while maintaining the facade of a devoted husband. Meanwhile, across town, Lily Taylor lived a life shaped by resilience. At 5 years old, she had lost her mother to illness and had spent years in foster care, moving from one strict home to another. But she had a gift, an insatiable curiosity, and a determination to succeed. She adored architecture, spending hours poring over old blueprints she discovered in the library. By the time Lily graduated high school with top honors, she had earned a state-provided apartment and a scholarship to the city university. For 3 years, she survived on a tight student budget, her meals simple, but her mind always engaged. It was in the university cafeteria that she met Russell Green, a quiet math student with a shy smile and an immediate sense of kindness. One day, he bought 5 pastries and jokingly invited her to share. Lily, who was usually reserved, accepted. That small act sparked hours of conversation. Walks along the river and an instant connection, but happiness was fleeting. A hereditary eye disease threatened to blind Russell, forcing him to leave school and enter a dark spiral of depression. Lily, unwilling to abandon him, made a bold choice. She left the university herself and took a job as a waitress, intending to work long hours to pay for the surgery he desperately needed. Her search for employment was not easy. Many restaurants dismissed her due to her modest appearance and practical clothing. Finally, she found a small opportunity at Whitford's Bistro. The restaurant was unassuming, the staff quiet and reserved. Perfect, in a way, for someone who wanted to work diligently without attracting attention. On her 3rd day, a peculiar scene greeted her. Henry Whitford entered with a young woman, Olia, dressed in flashy, provocative attire. She laughed too loudly and commanded attention, making Henry's usual calm control falter. The staff whispered to each other. "That's his," a colleague murmured. "Love interest, yes," another replied. "Not the wife." "You'll see the wife maybe once a year, if that." Lily couldn't focus on the gossip. Something in Olya's overconfidence, the way she seemed to manipulate Henry without effort, made her uneasy. As she served drinks, she noticed a faint, uncanny resemblance between Olya and Claire. Something in the eyes, the posture, an echo of Claire's presence that unsettled her. Later that week, Lily received a visit from a former neighbour, Rosa, who handed her a letter. It revealed an astonishing truth. The woman she had always believed to be her mother was not her biological parent. Lily's real mother had been taken from her as an infant, replaced by another child who had grown up with a wealthy family. The revelation shook Lily to her core, yet she found clarity in her purpose. Her life had always been shaped by survival, and now it had a new mission. She would use her resilience, intelligence, and courage to protect those she loved, starting with Russell, and unexpectedly uncovering secrets hidden in the lives around her. By the end of her first week at Whitford's bistro, Lily understood that the bistro was more than a workplace. It was a microcosm of power, wealth, and greatness, and deceit. A place where ambition and manipulation walked hand in hand. And somewhere, in the calm of the dining room, the game had already begun. Lily quickly realised that Whitford's bistro was not just another restaurant. The quiet elegance masked a complex network of relationships, power plays, and unspoken rules. The staff were meticulously chosen. Shy, polite, efficient. Hardly the flamboyant personalities Henry had once dreamed of introducing. It seemed Claire's influence ran deeper than Lily had imagined, even in her husband's domain. Henry, for his part, maintained an air of controlled charm. But his attention wandered constantly. He spoke warmly with wealthy patrons, discussed minor renovations with his managers, and yet, Lily noticed, his eyes were always scanning, calculating, and always there was Olya, bold, flirtatious, audacious. Lily had barely finished her shift when she heard soft laughter behind the bar. Peering through the open kitchen doorway, she caught Henry and Olya leaning close, whispering. It was impossible not to notice the subtle tension in Henry's body. The way he shifted slightly, as if pulled by Olya's presence. Lily's heart sank. She already understood this wasn't just flirtation. It was a power dynamic, one that could disrupt not only the restaurant, but Henry's entire, carefully curated life. Meanwhile, Claire's shadow loomed larger than Lily had anticipated. She wasn't often at the bistro, but her reputation preceded her. Staff spoke of her with a mixture of respect and fear. She was shrewd, exacting, and capable of subtle influence that reached far beyond the walls of the restaurant. Yet, she had also cultivated a network of friends and advisors, ready to execute her plans with precision. Lily felt a flicker of hope. If Claire was involved, perhaps the chaos Olya represented could be managed, or even turned to their advantage. But there was no time to dwell. Lily had her own secret mission. Russell's surgery loomed, and every paycheck, Every shift was a step closer to saving the man she loved. The opportunity came unexpectedly. A high-profile gala was announced, hosted by Mark Whitford himself. Lily, still a low-level waitress, was asked to assist with the event setup due to her reliability. It would be the perfect vantage point. She could observe Henry and Olya up close, and perhaps gather information that might be crucial. The night of the gala arrived, and Lily entered the grand hall, her nerves taut. Crystal chandeliers gleamed overhead, and elegantly dressed guests mingled, glasses in hand. Henry moved through the crowd like a conductor, directing attention, shaking hands, and exchanging polite smiles. Olya stayed close, her laughter like a bell that drew eyes in every direction. Lily kept to the shadows, noting every gesture, every whispered word. She realized quickly that Olya wasn't just a flirt. She was strategic, calculating, and dangerously clever. She manipulated conversations, subtly influencing decisions, all while Henry seemed oblivious to the true impact. Later, during a quiet moment in the service corridors, Lily stumbled upon a startling discovery. Olya had left behind a folder marked with confidential company stamps. Hesitating only for a moment, she peeked inside. Inside were detailed plans, offshore accounts, transactions, and financial maneuvers that seemed designed to bypass legal oversight. Her heart raced. She understood then why Claire had taken such an interest in her. Lily had the proximity and the discretion to observe and document without alerting the players. This was more than a restaurant drama. This was a glimpse into a world of calculated greed, and she had just stepped into it. By the time the gala ended, Lily returned home, exhausted but focused. She knew the coming days would demand courage, intelligence, and discretion. She had glimpsed the true scale of the machinations around her, and now her choices mattered more than ever. As she prepared for the night, she couldn't help but wonder, how much longer could Henry maintain control, and how far would Olya go before everything unravelled? For Lily, the real test was only beginning. The morning after the gala, Lily arrived at Whitford's bistro with a mix of exhaustion and determination. The city streets were already bustling, the honking of taxis and chatter of pedestrians blending into a constant hum. Inside the bistro, everything seemed calm, almost deceptively so. The staff moved quietly through their routines, polishing glasses and setting tables, unaware of the storm that had silently passed the night before. Lily went straight to the office, carrying the folder she had discovered at the gala. She needed to analyze its contents before taking any action. As she spread the documents across the desk, she realized just how meticulous Olya had been. There were spreadsheets listing offshore accounts, emails hinting at hidden investments, and even coded instructions for transferring funds without drawing attention. The scope of the scheme was staggering. At that moment, Claire arrived. She moved into the office without knocking, her presence commanding yet composed. "I hear you found something interesting," Claire said, her eyes scanning the papers. Lily felt a flicker of anxiety, but nodded. "It's worse than I thought. Olya isn't just causing trouble for Henry. She's running a network of financial manipulations right under his nose." Claire leaned against the desk, her expression thoughtful. "Then it's time we start playing our hand. We need to be careful. One wrong move, and everything could blow up." Meanwhile, Henry remained blissfully unaware. He believed the tension between Claire and Olia was minimal, thinking he could manage both women with charm and attention. But in reality, he was walking a tightrope. Olia's influence over him was subtle but powerful. She had a way of guiding decisions without ever seeming to assert herself. Lily began to observe Henry more closely. She noticed how he deferred to Olia in moments of uncertainty, how his tone softened in her presence, and how she subtly steered his actions toward risky financial moves. It became clear that Olia's ambitions were not limited to personal gratification. She was calculating, and she had a plan. The next week brought another test. Claire orchestrated a private meeting with Lily, instructing her to gather more evidence discreetly. Lily's assignment: attend a series of small dinners and business gatherings where Henry and Olia mingled with potential investors. She would act as a junior assistant, ostensibly delivering refreshments and taking notes. But in reality, she would be watching every interaction, every subtle exchange of information. At the first dinner, Lily observed a chilling display of manipulation. Olia leaned close to Henry, whispering suggestions that affected the decisions of wealthy clients. Henry nodded, often without fully understanding the implications. Lily documented everything mentally, noting patterns and connections that could later be pieced together. By the third dinner, Lily began to feel the psychological toll. The constant observation, the need for discretion, and the growing realization of the stakes weighed heavily on her. She confided in Claire during a quiet moment. "I'm afraid," Lily admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is bigger than I imagined. I don't know if I can handle it." Claire placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Fear is natural, but courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. You've already done more than most people would dare. Remember why you started this. Russell's surgery, the truth about your past, and now the chance to stop a manipulator before she destroys more lives. That's worth the risk." Lily nodded, feeling a spark of determination reignite. She wasn't just a bystander anymore. She was part of a plan that could bring justice and protect those she cared about. By the end of the week, Lily had compiled enough subtle observations to begin connecting dots. Patterns emerged. Olia's moves were consistent, her influence over Henry undeniable, and her ambition potentially devastating. Lily realized that confronting the situation would require not just courage, but strategy. She needed allies, proof, and timing. Everything had to align perfectly. As she walked home that evening, the city seemed darker. The streets quieter in a way that mirrored her thoughts. The stakes were higher than ever, but Lily felt ready. She had entered a world of wealth, deceit, and hidden agendas, and she would not leave it without making her mark. In the quiet of her apartment, she spread out her notes, letting the connections form like a web. Every document, every whispered conversation, Every subtle gesture of Olia's influence became a thread in that web. And at the centre of it all, Lily realised. The following Monday, the city woke to grey skies and a chilly breeze that hinted at early autumn. Lily arrived at Whitford's bistro before the staff, carrying a small notebook tucked under her arm and a quiet determination in her step. Today, she decided, she would not merely observe, she would act. Her first target was Olia. Lily had been piecing together the subtle manipulations, and now she had enough evidence to anticipate Olia's next move. The young woman arrived in a blur of designer fabrics and heavy makeup, immediately commanding attention from Henry and a small group of potential investors. Her laughter, as always, seemed perfectly timed to draw the eye. But Lily noticed something different today. An undercurrent of impatience in Olia's tone. A hint of frustration when Henry hesitated. Lily stayed close, delivering orders and taking mental notes. Every time Olia leaned toward Henry, Lily's pen traced invisible lines in her notebook, marking transactions, whispered instructions, and subtle gestures. For the first time, she realized just how much power Olia had amassed without anyone noticing. Henry, oblivious to the growing threat, tried to maintain control. He smiled, made polite suggestions, and nodded along with Olia's cues, believing he was guiding the decisions himself. But the cracks were visible, an uncharacteristic furrowed brow here, a sudden hesitation there. Lily sensed that a single well-timed move could expose Olia without alerting Henry immediately. During a quiet lull, Lily slipped away to the office, reviewing the folder she had discovered at the gala. She cross-referenced names, accounts, and emails with the observations she had made over the past week. Patterns emerged like a map. Olia's influence extended far beyond the bistro, touching financial networks, client portfolios, and even Henry's personal funds. It was audacious and dangerous. By mid-afternoon, Lily had formulated her plan. She would not confront Olia directly. That would be reckless. Instead, she needed to gather irrefutable proof, secure Claire's support, and ensure that Henry remained unaware until the right moment. Timing, she realized, would be everything. Her first step came unexpectedly. Olia, distracted by a heated discussion with a client, left a folder on the corner of the bar. Lily's heart pounded as she approached. One quick glance confirmed her suspicions. The folder contained signed documents detailing agreements Henry had unknowingly authorized under Olia's influence. It was the evidence Lily needed, but handling it required utmost care. She tucked the folder under her arm and moved toward the office, only to collide with Claire, who had entered silently. "You've got it," Claire said softly, her eyes sharp and knowing. "Good. Now we wait for the right moment. Don't let your emotions betray you." Lily nodded. Fear and excitement tangled in her chest. She felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, peering down into a chasm of consequences. One misstep, and not only would Olia succeed, but Russell's surgery and their future could be jeopardized. That evening, the tension in the bistro reached a peak. Investors mingled, glasses clinked, and Olia's laughter rang out like a warning bell. Henry, distracted by the crowd, remained unaware of the folder's disappearance and the silent strategy forming in Lily's mind. As the night drew on, Lily made her move. With quiet precision, she delivered the folder to Claire, who reviewed the contents and immediately confirmed Lily's observations. They had what they needed: proof of manipulation, financial irregularities, and Olia's audacious plan to control not just the bistro, but Henry's entire business network. "This is it," Claire said, her voice calm but firm. "Tonight we begin. But remember, timing is everything. Olia is clever. She won't fall easily." Lily felt a surge of determination. For the first time, she realized the power she held. She had stepped into a world of deception, but she was no longer just a spectator. She was an active participant, ready to protect those she loved, expose the truth, and restore order to a world that had long been tipped in favor of manipulation and greed. As she walked home through the quiet city streets, Lily knew one thing for certain. The first strike had been made, and the real battle was about to begin. The next morning, Whitford's bistro felt different. The city outside buzzed with its usual energy, but inside, the atmosphere was taut, as if everyone unconsciously sensed a shift. Lily arrived early, carrying a quiet resolve. The folder was now safely in Claire's hands, but the challenge was far from over. Olia was sharp, cunning, and unpredictable. One wrong move could undo weeks of careful observation and planning. Lily's first task was subtle. She had to maintain her position while carefully observing every interaction between Henry and Olia. Over the past days, she had learned the rhythm of their manipulations, how Olia leaned, whispered, or smiled just so, guiding Henry's decisions without overt force. Today, she had to anticipate the next move. By mid-morning, Olia made her first appearance with the group of investors. Her laughter, precise and calculated, rang across the dining room. Henry moved beside her, smiling politely at the guests, but hanging on her every word. Lily, blending in with the staff, noticed something critical. Olia had planned a sudden shift in financial commitments, proposing an unapproved bonus distribution and subtle changes to client accounts. Lily's pulse quickened. This was exactly what she had been waiting for. The proof that Olia wasn't just an annoyance, but a dangerous influence capable of harming Henry and the bistro's operations. She jotted careful notes, memorizing figures and sequences, storing every detail for Claire's review later. Meanwhile, Claire had her own plan in motion. Behind the scenes, she contacted key accountants and legal advisors connected to the bistro. Every document Lily had uncovered was being cross-referenced, verified, and prepared for exposure. They needed indisputable evidence before confronting Olia. "Patience," Claire whispered to Lily during a brief break. "Olia will make her next move today, and when she does, we'll be ready. We just need to wait for the perfect moment." Lily nodded, though anxiety pricked at her nerves. The perfect moment was unpredictable, and Olia's instincts were sharp. Every smile, every glance, every whispered word could signal a trap or a reveal. Lily realized she had to stay 2 steps ahead, thinking not just about actions, but reactions. By afternoon, the opportunity arose. Olia cornered Henry in a quiet office near the kitchen, pulling out a new set of documents. She explained her plan with careful charm, detailing subtle adjustments to client accounts and fund transfers. Henry listened, nodding, unaware that Lily had been quietly observing from the doorway. The moment was tense. One wrong move and Lily could be exposed. But Claire's voice came through a discreet earpiece Lily had been given. Now. Lily stepped forward, calmly clearing her throat. Both Henry and Olia looked up, startled. "Henry," she said, holding out the documents. "These need to be reviewed before you approve anything. Some of the entries don't match prior agreements, and there are irregularities in the funds." Olia's eyes narrowed, masking shock with a practiced smile. "Really? And you think I would make a mistake?" "Yes," Lily replied steadily. "And I think you need someone to double-check, just to be safe." The confrontation was subtle, but effective. Olia's confidence wavered slightly. She hadn't expected such a direct challenge from a junior staff member. Henry, still naive to Olia's influence, paused to review the documents. As he read, the discrepancies became clear. Claire arrived moments later, stepping into the office with calm authority. "Olia," she said, voice firm. "These documents confirm what we've been observing. We cannot allow any further manipulation." For the first time, Olia's poise faltered. Her carefully constructed facade of charm and control cracked under the weight of evidence and authority. She realized that Lily and Claire had coordinated their actions perfectly, leaving her without a shield. By evening, the bistro was quiet, but the tension lingered. Olia's influence had been exposed, at least partially, and Henry was beginning to grasp the gravity of the situation. Lily felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. She had stepped up, taken action, and protected not only the restaurant, but also Russell's future. As she walked home under the dim glow of streetlights, Lily reflected on the day's events, faced fear, deception, and uncertainty, and emerged stronger. But she knew this was only the beginning. Olia was clever, and the fight was far from over. The coming days would demand even greater courage, sharper strategy, and unwavering resolve. Lily paused for a moment, looking up at the night sky. The city seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for the next move in a game that had only just begun. And Lily knew, deep down, that she was ready to play. The morning air was crisp as Lily made her way to Whitford's bistro, the city buzzing with its usual rhythm of sirens, chatter, and the distant hum of construction. She felt a mix of determination and unease. Yesterday's confrontation had shaken Olia. But Lily knew better than to underestimate her. Olia was clever, ambitious, and ruthless when cornered. From the moment Lily stepped into the bistro, she sensed a shift in the atmosphere. The staff whispered quietly, casting nervous glances toward the back office where Henry and Olia had spent the previous afternoon. There was tension in the air, an invisible current that promised more conflict. Inside the office, Olya was already at work. She had been reviewing every document Lily and Claire had gathered, trying to identify weaknesses in their exposure plan. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, and her fingers drummed impatiently against the polished wood desk. "This isn't over," Olya muttered under her breath, voice low but firm. "They think they can outmaneuver me? They've underestimated me before. They'll regret it." Her plan was simple, but dangerous. She intended to manipulate Henry one final time, presenting a false scenario that would force him to reverse the checks and restore her influence. If she succeeded, she could regain control over the restaurant's operations and maintain her hold on Henry's decisions. Meanwhile, Lily and Claire met in the quiet of the office, strategizing their next move. "Olya will fight back," Claire said, her tone serious. "She's smart enough to know we've cornered her, and she'll try to manipulate Henry emotionally. We need to be ready to protect both him and the restaurant." Lily nodded, the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. "I'll watch Henry closely. If Olya tries anything, I'll intercept it immediately." Russell's surgery. Everything. It all depends on making sure Henry doesn't fall for her tricks again. Claire smiled faintly. "You've come a long way. Just remember, control the information, and you control the game. She can't manipulate what she doesn't have access to." The afternoon brought Olya's first move. She approached Henry with a carefully crafted story, feigning concern over a minor accounting error. She painted the situation as a potential disaster, claiming that reversing certain approvals was necessary to maintain client trust. Henry, still naive about her manipulations, hesitated, torn between caution and loyalty. Lily, observing from a short distance, intervened with a calm but firm reminder. "Henry, remember what we reviewed yesterday. These numbers are consistent with previous agreements. There's no need to reverse anything." Olya's eyes flashed with frustration, but she maintained her composure. "I'm just trying to protect you," she said smoothly, her tone almost convincing. Henry frowned, uncertainty etched across his face. "I don't know who to trust," he admitted. That was the moment Lily had been preparing for. She handed him a carefully compiled report, showing all of Olya's manipulations, with Claire ready to corroborate every detail. Henry's expression changed from confusion to shock as the reality of the situation finally sank in. By evening, Olya realized her position had weakened significantly. Her carefully laid plans were unraveling under the weight of evidence and Lily's vigilance. She tried one last attempt at persuasion. Approaching Henry privately to appeal to his emotions. "You think you understand her, don't you?" Claire interrupted, stepping into the room. "You don't, and neither does she. Everything she's done has been for herself, not for you, not for this restaurant." Olya's composure cracked. For the first time, she looked genuinely uncertain. The power she had wielded so effortlessly was slipping from her grasp, and she knew it. That night, Lily left the bistro with a mixture of relief and exhaustion. The immediate threat had been contained, but she understood this was just one battle in a longer war. Olia was resilient, and Henry's naivety remained a concern. As she walked through the quiet streets, Lily thought of Russell and the life she was fighting to protect. Each step she took was a reminder that courage wasn't just about confronting others. It was about standing firm for those who depended on you, even when the odds seemed overwhelming. And deep down, she knew the next challenge was already waiting, hidden in the shadows of ambition, deception, and unspoken loyalties. The following week arrived with an air of unease over the city. The bistro seemed normal on the surface, but Lily could feel the tension like static in the air. Olia's composure had been rattled by the last confrontation, but she was far from defeated. Lily knew from experience that from the moment Lily arrived, she noticed subtle changes in the staff's behaviour. Whispered conversations stopped abruptly when she entered, and servers glanced nervously toward the office. Something was brewing, and Lily intended to uncover it before it became a problem. Olia had spent the past several days quietly rallying her allies, carefully selecting staff and investors who could be persuaded to support her schemes. She wasn't just going to reclaim influence at the bistro. She planned to undermine Henry entirely, presenting herself as the only capable leader, while discrediting everyone else. Lily observed her closely, noting the calculated way Olia interacted with others. Every gesture, every word was designed to manipulate perception. But Lily had something Olia lacked: knowledge, preparation, and a deep understanding of the stakes involved. By late afternoon, Olia initiated her first major, desperate move. She called Henry into a private meeting, fabricating a story about an urgent financial opportunity that required immediate approval. She painted a vivid picture of a lucrative deal, emphasizing Henry's supposed vulnerability if he refused. Lily, watching from a discreet distance, could see Henry's hesitation. He trusted Olia more than he should, and her story had the potential to manipulate him. But Lily was ready. She had spent hours preparing a clear, factual report, highlighting the discrepancies in Olia's claims. Quietly, she approached Claire, who was waiting nearby with the finalized documentation. "You know what to do," Claire whispered. "This is the moment to show Henry the truth without exposing ourselves too early." Lily nodded, heart pounding. She entered the office just as Olia reached the peak of her argument. With calm authority, Lily presented the evidence: charts, emails, financial statements, all clearly showing Olia's manipulations and the risks of her proposed plan. Henry's face paled as he read through the documentation. I had no idea," he murmured, realization dawning. "She's been lying to me this whole time." Olia's eyes flashed with desperation. "You don't understand. I've been protecting the restaurant. This was for your benefit." "No," Lily said firmly. "It was for your own benefit, not the restaurant's or anyone else's. And now we have proof." Henry took a deep breath, finally grasping the truth. With Claire and Lily's support, he decisively rejected Olia's plan. The weight of deception lifted slightly, but the cost was clear. Olia's desperation made her unpredictable, and she was likely to escalate further. Lily realized the personal stakes more sharply than ever. Russell's surgery and future depended not only on exposing Olia, but also on maintaining stability at the bistro. Every move she made had consequences beyond the immediate confrontation. By evening, Olia had retreated to regroup. She no longer had the confidence to act openly, but Lily could sense her plotting behind the scenes. The bistro staff, sensing the tension, were anxious but relieved that clarity had returned, at least temporarily. Walking home under the amber glow of the streetlights, Lily reflected on the week's events. She had faced cunning, manipulation and pressure, but she had emerged stronger and more strategic. The battle was far from over, yet she felt a quiet confidence. Knowledge, preparation, and determination were her weapons. Lily knew one thing for certain. The next confrontation would be even more critical. Olia's moves would grow more desperate, more dangerous, and the next strike would determine not only the fate of the bistro, but also the lives Lily was fighting to protect. The week had been long, and the city seemed unusually oppressive under the heavy summer heat. Whitford's bistro, once a place of casual charm and familiar routines, now felt like a battlefield. Every glance, every whispered conversation carried the potential for disaster. Lily knew Olia would not give up easily. Desperation had made her dangerous. Lily arrived early that morning, scanning the restaurant for any sign of unusual activity. She noticed small but telling details. A stack of unfiled documents on Henry's desk. An unfamiliar staff member lingering near the back office. And the subtle tension in the waitstaff's posture. Olia was already putting her plan into motion. And Lily had to act fast. Olia's strategy was audacious. She had found a way to manipulate external investors, fabricating urgent financial concerns and suggesting that Henry's inexperience was threatening the restaurant's future. If she could convince Henry to rely on her, she would regain control completely and simultaneously discredit Lily and Claire. By mid-morning, Olia cornered Henry in his office, presenting a series of urgent emails and fabricated financial reports. Her voice was calm, fully intact, almost sweet. But Lily had trained herself to see past the charm. Every word Olia spoke was calculated, meant to provoke anxiety and force Henry to make a hasty decision. Lily, observing from the doorway, felt a surge of determination. This was the moment she had prepared for. Quietly, she slipped into the room, carrying the verified documents Claire had painstakingly compiled over the past week. "Henry," Lily said firmly, placing the papers on the desk. "Look at the real numbers. These are verified by our accountants and backed by Claire. Olia's claims don't hold up." Olia's eyes flickered with irritation. "You think you're clever, don't you?" she hissed. "You can't stop this. He needs me. He'll see that soon enough." Henry, now looking between the two women, held the papers in his hands and studied the discrepancies. His expression shifted from confusion to dawning realization. I can't believe I almost fell for this," he said, voice low. "She's been manipulating me all along." Olia's composure cracked. For the first time, her carefully constructed persona wavered. She tried one last emotional appeal. "Henry, you don't understand. I've been trying to protect everything." "No," Henry interrupted, voice firm and steady for the first time. You've been protecting only yourself. Lily, Claire, I trust you both. We won't let this continue. Olia realized she had lost. The network of lies, manipulation, and charm she had relied on had been dismantled by careful planning, observation, and teamwork. She stormed out of the office, furious but defeated. That evening, the bistro felt lighter, almost peaceful. The staff worked efficiently, and the air of tension had lifted. Lily and Claire reviewed the day's events, making sure every loose end was secured. Henry had a newfound clarity and respect for Lily's dedication. Later, as the city lights shimmered outside, Lily received a call from Russell's hospital. The surgery had been scheduled successfully, and his condition was stable. Relief washed over her in waves. Every risk, every confrontation, every long day had led to this moment. A chance to save someone she cared deeply about. Walking home, Lily reflected on the journey. The challenges with Olia had tested her courage, her intellect, and her resilience. She realized that facing deception required more than just evidence. It required patience, strategic thinking, and unwavering determination. She also understood the importance of trust and loyalty. Without Claire's guidance and Henry's eventual clarity, none of this would have been possible. As she reached her apartment, Lily felt a sense of calm settle over her. The battle was not just about exposing Olia. It had been about proving to herself that she could confront fear, protect what mattered, and rise above manipulation. The city around her continued to hum with life, but Lily felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The next chapter, the resolution of personal relationships, the aftermath of Olia's downfall, and the celebration of Russell's recovery, was almost here. The morning sun spilled gently through the windows of Whitford's bistro, casting a warm glow over the polished wood tables and gleaming kitchen surfaces. After weeks of tension and uncertainty, the bistro finally felt like a place of stability again. Lily moved through the dining area with a sense of calm, smiling at staff and guests alike. The battles of the past weeks had left their mark, but now clarity and order had returned. Olia had been removed from the bistro entirely, her attempts to regain influence thwarted by the combined efforts of Lily, Claire, and a now alert Henry. Legal action had been taken to ensure she could not interfere further, and the staff had been reassured that their workplace was safe. The bistro, once shadowed by deceit and manipulation, was now an environment where hard work and integrity were valued above all. Henry, though initially naive, had grown wiser through the ordeal. He held meetings with Lily and Claire, reviewing procedures and financial practices to prevent any future manipulation. The trio worked closely to rebuild not just trust, but a stronger foundation for the restaurant's long-term success. Amidst this professional restoration, Lily found herself turning her attention to Russell. The young man had undergone his surgery successfully, and each day he grew stronger. The relief she felt was profound. Not only had she protected him from the dangers of Olia's schemes, but she had also ensured his health and future were secure. Seeing him smile, even weakly at first, reminded her why she had fought so tirelessly. Russell, his spirit undimmed despite the months of hardship, expressed gratitude with sincerity. "I don't know how to thank you, Lily," he said one afternoon, his voice still hoarse but filled with warmth. "You saved me, and you didn't give up, even when everything seemed impossible." Lily smiled, her own eyes misting. "You don't have to thank me. Just focus on getting better. That's the reward." The personal consequences of the battle against Olia also reached closure. The staff felt secure. Henry had regained confidence in his leadership, and the bistro was thriving. For Lily, the experience had transformed her understanding of courage, loyalty, and resilience. She had learned that confronting manipulation required not just evidence, but strategy, patience, and the willingness to act decisively when the moment demanded it. Even in her personal life, Lily found hope and reassurance. The bonds she had forged with Henry, Claire, and Russell proved that trust, when cultivated with care, could endure and strengthen. These relationships were no longer just professional. They were a network of mutual respect and genuine care, a foundation for future stability. In the weeks that followed, Whitford's Bistro regained its reputation as a premier dining destination in the city, known not only for its cuisine, but for its integrity and welcoming atmosphere. Regular patrons returned, drawn by the friendly environment and the sense that the bistro was now a place where honesty and effort were rewarded. Lily, walking through the bistro one evening as the sun set and the city lights reflected off the windows, felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The battles had been hard, the stakes had been high, and the risks had been real. But she had endured, and those she cared about were safe. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to relax, confident that the future was bright and that the challenges they had faced had only made them stronger. As she glanced toward Russell, now laughing quietly with a friend, and Henry reviewing new business plans with Claire, Lily knew that life had returned to a harmonious rhythm. The restaurant, the friendships, and the personal triumphs were all evidence that even in the face of deception, cruelty, and danger, perseverance, courage, and integrity could restore balance. And with that, the city continued its steady pulse, unaware of the battles fought behind closed doors. But Lily, Henry, Claire, and Russell carried with them the certainty that they had faced the storm together and emerged stronger, wiser, and ready for the future. The story of struggle, resilience, and restoration had reached its conclusion, leaving a foundation of hope and possibility for all involved. If you like the story, I would be very happy to have your support. Click the thumbs up. And to not miss new stories, subscribe and click on the bell. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and all the best.